The cold, sterile walls of my father's office were suffocating. The leather chair behind his desk, once a symbol of power and responsibility, was now empty vacant, just like my future. I had imagined this moment for years, dreamed of the day I'd take over his company, but never did I envision it ending like this. My father's sudden death had left everything in disarray. I thought I was prepared, ready to step into his shoes, to continue his legacy, but I was wrong. My world was crumbling around me, and it was all because of the two people I trusted most, Ethan, my boyfriend, and Grace, my best friend. They had been conspiring behind my back for months, maybe even years. The betrayal didn't just sting, it was a venom that seeped into every corner of my existence. The man I loved, the woman I thought was my closest ally, they had planned this all along. "I'm sorry, Emily. It was never meant to be this way," Ethan's voice, usually soft and comforting, now felt distant. "But Grace and I have made a decision. The company needs someone with vision, someone who can lead. I can't let you do it. I'm doing this for you, for the both of us." His words didn't make sense. He was doing this for me. How could he claim that? He had always been my rock, my confidant. But now all I saw was a stranger. His eyes held no trace of affection or love, just cold calculation. Grace, standing beside him, folded her arms, her expression one of triumph. "Ethan is right, Emily. You're too emotional. You don't have the business acumen to take over. You don't have what it takes to lead a corporation like this. It's time to step aside and let the grown-ups handle things." The words hit me like a slap. Betrayed, humiliated, I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. My best friend, my boyfriend, they had done this to me. Grace's eyes gleamed with the same ambition that had driven her to be by Ethan's side, to tear me apart. They were both after the company, after the empire that was supposed to be mine. "What are you saying?" I barely managed to whisper. You're taking the company? You're taking everything from me?" "Emily, we didn't want it to go this way," Ethan said, but his voice lacked any trace of regret. "But we're doing what's best for the future. You'll be fine. You'll have your own life to live. Just let us do this." In that moment, everything shattered. The world around me spun, and all I could hear was the deafening silence of betrayal. How had I been so blind? How could I have loved him, trusted her, when they were plotting behind my back all along? With trembling hands, I reached for the papers that had been placed in front of me, the documents that transferred control of the company to Ethan and Grace. The weight of it was unbearable. The life I had planned, the future I had worked toward, all of it had been ripped from me in an instant. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the room, feeling as if the floor had fallen out from under me. The hallway stretched out before me, but it felt as if it were closing in, suffocating me. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. All I knew was that I had nothing left. My father was gone, and now so was everything else. The world was closing in around me, and there was no escape. I had no strength left to fight. The company, the legacy, had been taken from me. Ethan and Grace had won. They had everything now. And I had nothing. My heart felt like it was breaking with every breath I took. The pain was unbearable. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing as I walked aimlessly, barely aware of where I was going. I found myself at the rooftop of the office building, standing on the edge, staring down at the city below. There was nothing left. No reason to go on, no reason to keep fighting. But then a voice called out to me. "Emily!" Lucas's voice broke through my despair. I turned, startled, to see him standing at the door of the rooftop, his face filled with concern and panic. Lucas, the one person who had always been there for me, even when I didn't realize it. My childhood friend, the one who had always been by my side. "Lucas, please," I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. "I can't do this anymore. I've lost everything. They've taken everything from me." "Emily," he said, his voice breaking as he stepped closer, his hands outstretched in an attempt to reach me. "Please, don't do this. You're not alone. I'm here. I'm right here." I felt his presence, his warmth, but It wasn't enough to pull me back from the abyss. The world felt too heavy, too dark. The pain of betrayal was suffocating, and I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to breathe. "Why are you even here, Lucas?" I whispered, the bitterness in my voice stark against the soft wind. "What's the point of living if they've taken everything from me? My life is over." "No, Emily," Lucas said firmly, his voice steady but filled with desperation. "You still have so much left. You have a future. Don't let them win. Please, live for yourself. Don't let their betrayal define you. You're stronger than this." Tears blurred my vision as I looked at him. The weight of it all was too much. My heart felt like it was breaking into 1,000 pieces. How had everything gone so wrong? How could I face the world after they had destroyed me? Lucas stepped closer, his hand reaching for mine. "I know you're hurting. I know you feel lost, but you can't give up. You can't let them take everything from you, not when you have the power to fight back." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that I still had a chance, but it didn't matter. I stepped back, my foot slipping on the edge. "No!" Lucas shouted, his voice filled with panic as he lunged toward me, reaching for my arm, trying to stop me. But it was too late. I lost my balance, and in that split second, I felt myself falling. Lucas reached for me, his hand brushing against mine, but it was a second too slow. We both plummeted, falling together into the darkness, and then everything went black. I awoke with a sharp breath, my heart racing as I tried to make sense of the strange feeling washing over me. My hands trembled as I sat up in bed, blinking in confusion. The room was too familiar, the smell of fresh paint and the scent of old books filling my nostrils. I recognized the wallpaper, the photos on the walls of my teenage years, the familiar creak of the floorboards beneath me. It was my old room, but it couldn't be. I had died. I had fallen with Lucas, and everything that had happened after that had been a nightmare. I touched my face, feeling the smoothness of my skin, the absence of time on me. No scars, no bruises, no marks of betrayal. I was back. 5 years earlier, the day I began dating Ethan, the moment my life had started to go wrong. A wave of disbelief crashed over me. I had a second chance. But what should I do with it? I couldn't let Ethan and Grace ruin me again. The thought of them, the way they had schemed behind my back, was enough to make my blood boil. I had to be smarter this time. Stronger. They didn't know I had been reborn. They didn't know I remembered everything. And they wouldn't know until it was too late. I decided then that I would feign ignorance. I would act as if nothing had changed. I would continue my relationship with Ethan and stay close to Grace, pretending nothing had shifted. They would be completely unaware that I was aware of their plans. They would continue to trust me, believing they can manipulate me, while I quietly worked on my revenge. I couldn't rush into anything. I had to build my empire, make them underestimate me. I would wait until the perfect moment. This time, I was in control. With my second chance, I wasn't going to rely on my father's company. His company was well established, but it was traditional, focused on providing business management consulting services to large corporations. They helped companies with outdated systems, managing operations in an old-fashioned way. My father's company was good, but it had been around for decades and was starting to show signs of stagnation. Now, I would create something of my own, something new, something game-changing. I had spent years around tech, learning about artificial intelligence, and I knew that AI was the future. I had an idea to build an AI system designed to streamline business, management, something that would allow small and medium enterprises to optimize their operations with ease. This wasn't just a tool. This was going to revolutionize the industry. I began working tirelessly to develop the software. It wasn't easy. I had no initial funding, no inherited legacy to fall back on. It was just me, an idea, and the knowledge I'd accumulated over the years. My mind raced as I spent sleepless nights programming, designing, and testing. The AI system started to take shape, and it was better than I had imagined. Grace's father's company, with its outdated methods of managing businesses, was no longer in sync with the modern world. They provided consulting services that had become irrelevant. relying on traditional methods while the world moved toward automation and data-driven solutions. They were in danger of being left behind, and my AI system would be the hammer that shattered their outdated foundation. But Grace wasn't done with me yet. I had no idea Lucas was even involved. He had always been in the background, never fully in the picture. But as the deal with the investors started to fall apart due to Grace's sabotage, Lucas showed up just in time. I was sitting in my office, looking at the email from the investors team, where they mentioned that they were considering pulling out of the deal. Grace had poisoned the well, and I had no idea how to stop it. My stomach was in knots as I realized how close I was to losing everything. Then, out of nowhere, Lucas walked into my office. "Emily," he said, his voice calm but filled with concern. "We need to talk." I looked up, startled. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" "I know what's going on," he said, his eyes intense. "Grace's interference, the investor pulling out everything." "It's not your fault." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "How can you know?" "I've been involved behind the scenes," Lucas replied, his tone serious. "I work as the financial advisor for the investors firm. I've been tracking your project, Emily, and I believe in it. I've been trying to help you, but Grace is making it difficult." My eyes widened. "You're the financial advisor for the investor? Why didn't you tell me?" "I couldn't," Lucas said, looking pained. "I didn't want to interfere directly. But when I saw Grace sabotaging the deal, I couldn't stand by anymore. I've been working to keep the deal alive in secret, trying to make sure the CEO doesn't pull the plug on your project. I know how this feels. I remember everything, Emily, and I can't watch you fall again." The realization hit me like a thunderclap. Lucas had been helping me all along. "But why didn't you tell me? Why keep this a secret?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of relief and confusion. "I didn't know if you'd want to know," Lucas admitted, his voice low. "I didn't want to complicate things. I wanted to help, but I didn't want you to think I was manipulating you. I'm not doing this for my own gain. I'm doing this because I remember everything." My heart skipped a beat. "You remember?" I whispered, barely able to comprehend what he was saying. Lucas nodded. "Yes, I was with you, Emily. When we fell, I didn't understand it at first, but now I remember everything. We both died, and now we're both back. I couldn't let you go through it again. I promised myself I wouldn't let them ruin you again." I stared at him, unable to speak. The shock of his words paralyzed me for a moment. He had been reborn, just like me. He had been helping me from the shadows, working to save the one thing that mattered to me the most in my future. "I don't know what to say," I finally whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Lucas said gently. "I just needed you to know the truth. I've been by your side, Emily, and I will be until this is all over." I had spent months building my company, pouring everything into it. And now I had a weapon that could destroy the very thing Grace had built her life around, her family's legacy. I successfully outpaced her father's outdated business management consulting agency with my cutting-edge AI system, leaving her family's business in the dust. Their clients were flocking to me. Their infrastructure was crumbling, and Grace had no idea what was coming. But it was time to finish what I had started. Grace's father's company had once been the go-to provider for corporate consulting, helping large businesses with inefficient, outdated systems. But now, with the rise of AI, they were becoming irrelevant. Grace's family was too proud, too unwilling to change, and I was the one who would finally bring their downfall. The first strike was public, a showcase of my AI system in a high-profile press event. The media was buzzing, business leaders were watching, and clients were already reaching out. As I stood before the crowd, showcasing the power of my technology, I could see the reporters taking notes, the investors nodding in approval. The excitement in the room was palpable. Tech revolution. New AI company leaves traditional giants in the dust. The headlines would scream. But as I glanced over the crowd, I could see Grace, her face flushed with anger, standing at the back, watching me with that familiar look of disdain. She had tried everything to tear me down, and now she had nothing. When the press conference was over, I knew I had her. It wasn't just about business, it was about dismantling everything she had thought she could keep intact. I made sure the media knew exactly what had happened, how her father's company had failed to keep up with the new wave of technology, and how my company's AI was far superior. Grace's family had been too comfortable in their power for too long. Now I had exposed their weakness. The damage didn't stop there. I leaked internal reports that showed how Grace's family had ignored the changing business landscape, how they had failed to innovate, and how they had been wasting money on outdated technology. With each leak, Grace's family business slipped further from Grace. Their clients, their suppliers, their investors, everyone started pulling away. Grace, who had once been so smug, now tried to salvage her family's name, but it was futile. Her world was crumbling. I could hear her frantic calls to her father trying to convince him to save their empire, but it was too late. It was then that I decided to confront her face to face. I met Grace in her office, a place that once made me feel small, but now felt like a throne room that she no longer had the power to defend. She looked up at me, fury in her eyes, but there was something else there now, a hint of fear. "Emily," she spat, standing from her desk. "You think you can just tear down everything my family built and walk away with it? You think you've won?" I stepped forward, calm but with a fire in my eyes. "You've never understood what it takes to really build something. You relied on your father's name and connections, but your arrogance and stubbornness made sure that everything he built would come crashing down. The world moved forward, and you stayed behind. Don't pretend you're some hero," Grace sneered. "You've ruined everything. Do you have any idea what you've cost me?" "You cost me everything," I replied coldly, my voice steady. "You betrayed me, used me, and tried to destroy me. What's left of your legacy now? HM? My AI system is changing the future, while your father's company is being dismantled. The legacy you clung to well, it's a lie." Her face twisted in rage. "I will make you regret this. You don't understand the power I still have, the connections I have." "You've already lost," I said, my words cutting through the air. "The world doesn't need your father's outdated business anymore. They need the future, and that's what I've given them. I've destroyed everything you and your father have ever stood for." Grace's face fell, the truth sinking in. She had no power left. I'd taken everything. "I've won," I said, and as I turned to leave, I could see her crumble in the mirror, the weight of her failure crashing down on her. I walked away, knowing that the legacy she had tried to protect was gone, nothing more than dust. Ethan had always been the one I trusted most. He was the one who had promised me everything. And when I needed him most, he had betrayed me, stealing everything from me, my father's company, my future, my sense of self. But now it was time for him to feel the same devastation I had felt. I wasn't going to just ruin his business. I was going to make him suffer, to make him feel the cold isolation of losing everything he had ever taken for granted. It started small, isolating him from the network he had relied on. I strategically worked behind the scenes to undermine his deals, targeting the very people who had once supported him. Clients who once trusted him began pulling out of contracts. Investors who had seen him as a promising future now saw him as a risk. As each partnership dissolved, his world began to crumble. But Ethan didn't understand what was happening. He was too proud, too arrogant to see it. He thought it was all just a phase, a small hiccup. But each day that passed, he was losing everything. Slowly, methodically. One evening, I showed up at his penthouse. The apartment was dark, silent, as I entered, watching him from the doorway. He didn't hear me at first. "Ethan," I said, my voice cold, "how does it feel? Watching everything slip through your fingers?" He spun around, his face pale, his eyes wide with confusion. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I came to watch you lose everything," I said, stepping forward. "Do you remember when you took my father's company? Do you remember how you betrayed me?" "Emily, you don't understand," Ethan said desperately. "I did it for us, for the future. I never wanted to hurt you." But you did, I replied sharply. You didn't care about me. You never did. You cared about your own ambition, your own power. And now, look at you. His face flushed with anger. You can't do this to me. You can't ruin me like this. I'm not ruining you, Ethan. You did that to yourself. You thought you could tear me down, but now look at you, alone. He tried to speak, but his voice faltered. The realization was sinking in. The people he had relied on were now abandoning him. The deals he had once led were falling apart. He was sinking into debt. Your company's in freefall, Ethan. I've already taken the deals you once had. You have nothing left. You never even cared about the company or my father's legacy. You only cared about your own success. Ethan collapsed onto his couch, clutching his head in his hands, the weight of his failure settling in. You won't get away with this. You can't just take everything from me. But I have, I said, my voice cold and final. You'll never recover. I've made sure of it. The investors you once had gone. Your reputation ruined. And soon you'll be nothing more than a memory. You'll watch as your world falls apart, just like I did. Alone. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. I turned to leave, but before I walked out the door, I paused and looked back at him. This is the end, Ethan. This is what you get for betraying me. As I left his apartment, I could feel the weight of the destruction I had caused. Ethan had lost everything, his wealth, his reputation, his network, and now he was truly alone. With Grace's family legacy destroyed and Ethan's life reduced to rubble, I stood victorious. I had done it. I had rebuilt everything, taking what was mine and more. My AI system was now the gold standard in the industry, and my company was poised for an even greater rise. But as satisfying as my victory was, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my future, about showing that I was stronger, smarter, and more capable than Grace and Ethan had ever thought. I stood in my office, looking out at the skyline. From here, everything seemed so different. The weight of the past seemed to melt away as I gazed at my reflection in the glass. I wasn't the person I was before. I was more than that now. I had rebuilt my life, and my company was thriving. My AI system was gaining widespread recognition, and it was already being implemented by several high-profile companies who had previously relied on Grace's father's outdated consulting methods. They were flocking to my company, attracted by the cutting-edge technology that had made Grace's family's consulting firm obsolete. Their methods had been slow and efficient, and based on traditional business management practices, something my AI could do better, faster, and cheaper. But my victory wasn't just about outdoing Grace's father's company. It was about proving to myself that I was capable of more than they ever allowed me to believe. I knew Grace's family's business couldn't recover. They were in too deep, too behind the times, and their clients were already leaving them for more modern solutions. My AI had destroyed their legacy, and no matter how hard Grace tried to salvage what was left, it was over. Her father's company, once a towering figure in business consulting, was crumbling, and I had done it with nothing more than my knowledge and determination. I thought back to when Ethan had betrayed me, and how in the moment I thought it was the end of everything. But now I realized it was only the beginning. They thought they could destroy me, but it was their own arrogance and reliance on outdated methods that did them in. I had built something greater. And I wasn't done yet. As I stood there looking out over the city, I heard a knock at the door. It was Lucas. He had been by my side through all of it, and he had played an instrumental role in keeping the investor deal alive when Grace had tried to sabotage it. He had been my ally, my confidant, and the one person I could truly trust. "Emily," Lucas said as he entered, smiling softly. "You did it. It's over." I turned to face him, a smile tugging at my lips. "We did it, Lucas. Thank you for everything." He walked over, standing beside me at the window. "I'll always have your back. Always." "I know," I said, looking at him with a mix of gratitude and something more. I didn't say it, but I felt he had been my rock, even when I hadn't realized it. I couldn't have done this without you. The future was mine. And this time, nothing could stop me.